it's your girl Cecilia Towns, the Sporty Esquire, and you are here for another episode of Workin Women Wednesday, the series where I tell you the things that I have learned and am learning from my experience as an attorney, an entrepreneur, and a former student athlete. So last week we talked about the importance of and the method behind standing out at work. And one of the things that I mentioned was that you need to be great at your work. You need to be excellent. Well, unfortunately for people like me who don't like to miss a beat, you are not always excellent. You're gonna mess up sometimes. And what I think that we're missing as a society is that we don't really focus on, well, how do you bounce back from the mistakes that are bound to happen? And that's what I want to talk to you about today. How do you bounce back from mistakes at work? And lucky for you, I am the case study because I have some very recent experience with messing up at work. So the first thing that you want to do when you mess up at work is you want to publicly acknowledge the mistake or the error. Now, when I say publicly, I don't mean that you have to send an email to everybody in the company, but you should let the people know who are affected by the mistake that, hey, I messed up. And it really is necessary because eventually the people are going to know that you messed up. So if you kind of sort of try to pretend that you didn't, it just really looks bad. You look a little immature. So woman up and admit that you made the mistake. So I told you I was going to be the case study. This Monday, as in, 2 days ago, I walked into work all happy-go-lucky, and I opened up my email, and I realized that I had missed completely a deadline, a filing deadline. And, filing deadlines are with the court, and they are legit deadlines. They're not like a deadline that I made for myself or that my boss made for me. It's serious. So, this is the first time it ever happened to me. I was pretty mortified. I was, disappointed in myself. But I did exactly what I told you to do. I emailed opposing counsel and I emailed the judge and I apologized for my error and, I acknowledged that I messed up. I explained what happened and I told them, that I would rectify the situation. And that's really all you have to do. Just put your big girl panties on and let people know that you made a mistake. Most people are very gracious because they understand that everybody makes mistakes. But that leads to the second part. Once you acknowledge a mistake, you need to make sure you have a plan of action to correct it. So, maybe you announce that plan of action when you announce that you made a mistake, or maybe you don't. But the plan needs to be there because you have to make it right. You can't just have the mistake out there and you not correct it. So, what I did was when I sent the email apologizing for, missing the deadline, I also let them know that I would be making the filing at close of business today. So I let them know that I messed up, but that I had a complete plan of action to make it right. That, for me personally, that also meant that I had to put everything else to the side that I was planning on working on that day. And I needed to focus on making sure that I executed the plan to make it right. That brings me to the third thing, which is you have to execute the plan and execute it well. The last thing that you want to do is tell somebody that you're going to correct your mistake and then don't correct it or you correct it wrong again. Then you're starting to look real shady boots. You're starting to look tacky as all get out and somebody that's not reliable. Don't do it to yourself. Execute the plan and execute it well. That's what I did. I told them that I was going to file by close of business, and that's what I did. I even got it in earlier than close of business just to be sure. And that lets people know that, hey, what happened was just a mistake. It's not a character flaw. So the fourth and final thing that you need to do after you've admitted your error, after you've developed your plan, after you execute your plan, is simple. You just need to learn from your mistake and make sure that you are not doing it again ever, ever, ever. So people are forgetful sort of and forgiving when you make a mistake here or there, but they're not going to be forgiving when you make the same mistakes or you're making a bunch of small mistakes, right? So make sure that you don't make that mistake ever again, and make sure you're more cognizant of what you're doing so that, you know, the next time you make a mistake, it's far between, there's a great amount of time in between your last mistake. I, for one, know that it'll never, ever happen again. I won't ever, ever, ever miss a court's deadline again. I can guarantee you that. You know, I had this poor habit of just seeing a deadline and saying, oh, I'll remember that because I'm going to keep track of the case. I'll check back in, you know, in a month or so. Well, I started getting busy and completely forgot this time. I didn't write down the deadline and it came and went. So I'll never do that again. The next time I get a deadline, I'm putting it on the calendar immediately, on the calendar on my phone, on the calendar on my desk, and on the calendar on the wall that I look at every day. It's just, that's how I'm gonna make sure it never happens again. So that's really it. You know, don't get too down on yourself for making mistakes because everybody does, you know. Just be a woman about it, admit, you know, that you messed up, you know, have a plan of action for making it right and, you know, execute that well and just don't do it again. That's all. It's not that difficult. Life goes on. You're still a great employee. You're still a great co-worker. You're still a great consultant. Your clients will still like you. Your boss will still like you. It's gonna be okay. Just do what I tell you to do and you'll bounce back, no problem. Well, this has been Cecilia Towns for another episode of Working Women Wednesday. Thank you so much for joining me. Make sure you subscribe to the Gladiators YouTube channel because I have a lot more content there. Leave me your feedback and make sure you share this video with the people you know who might need help bouncing back from a mistake. Cecilia Towns, the Sporty Esquire, and I'll see you next week. Bye.